Hello, my friends. Hope that you're doing well. Yeah, I'd like to start it out every time. It's doing this Bible verse from Luke 17, verse 2. It were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he cast into the sea, that he should offend one of these little ones. So many people have been hurt, and some cannot stand to go to church anymore or worship because of their hurt and the judgment about by people of congregations. And my importance, hello there, good to see you. The importance of getting the message out about any and all abuse. How are you doing today? And it's good to see you as well. Hello, Erin. I hope that you're still here. I had saw this and read this yesterday, and I said I really need to share this with everyone. This originally was in the Los Angeles Times years ago, and then Newsbreak had put this up. Report details staggering church sex abuse in Maryland. More than 150 Catholic priests and others associated with the Archdiocese of Baltimore sexually abused more than 600 children over the last 80 years, according to the state report released Wednesday that accused church officials of decades of cover ups. The report paints a damning picture of the Archdiocese, which is the oldest Roman Catholic diocese in the country and spans much of Maryland. Some parishes, schools, and congregations had more than one abuser at the same time, including St. Mark Parish in Kettonsville, which had 11 abusers living and working there between 1964 and 2004. I'm doing pretty good. My allergies are acting up a little bit. Other than that, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. The Maryland Attorney General's office issued the report during Holy Week. So this is Holy Week, and so I felt like it's very important to get this out for this being Holy Week as well. It's considered the most sacred time of year in Christianity ahead of Easter Sunday, and said the number of victims is probably far higher. We know that it's no probably there. We already know it's far higher. The staggering pervasiveness of the abuse itself underscores the culpability of the church hierarchy. The report said the sheer number of abusers and victims, the depravity of the abuser's conduct, and the frequency with which known abusers were given the opportunity to continue preying upon children are astonishing. They continued, they kept letting this happen. The disclosure of the redacted findings marks a significant development in an ongoing legal battle over their release and adds to growing evidence from parishes across the country as numerous similar revelations have rocked the Catholic Church in recent years. Baltimore Archbishop William Lorry, in a statement posted online, apologized to the victims and said the report details a reprehensible time in the history of this archdiocese, a time will not be covered up. ignored, or forgotten. About time someone spoke up and said it's not going to be covered up or forgotten. It is difficult for most to imagine that such evil acts could have actually occurred, Lori said. For victim survivors everywhere, they know the hard truth. These evil acts did occur. Also on Wednesday, the state legislature passed a bill to end a statute of limitations on abuse related civil lawsuits. Yes, they passed the bill, y'all, so that's good. Sending it to Governor Wes Moore, who has said he supports it. The Baltimore Archdiocese says it has paid more than $13.2 million for care and compensation for 301 abuse victims since the 80s, including $6.8 million toward 105 voluntary settlements. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown, who took office in January, said the investigation shows pervasive, pernicious, and persistent abuse. State investigators began their work in 2019 and reviewed over 100,000 pages of documents dating to the 40s and interviewed hundreds of victims and witnesses. Good to see you, Aaron. Only one person has been indicted through the investigation, Neil Adelberg, 74, who was arrested last year and charged with rape and other counts. The case remains ongoing. Officials said he coached wrestling at a Catholic high school in the 70s, then returned to the role for the 2014-15 school year. The alleged abuse occurred in 2013 and 2014, but the victim was not a student of the school, officials said. The Survivors Network of those abused by priests, known as SNAP, there is a website out that is a support place for SNAP. They are victims, Survivors Network of those abused by priests. That's what SNAP stands for. It noted the Attorney General's report has more names of abusers than have been released publicly by Archdiocese officials. The organization called on the Archbishop to explain the discrepancies. Other investigations involving the Archdiocese of Washington and the Diocese of Wilmington, Delaware, which both include parts of Maryland, are ongoing. The Baltimore report largely focuses on the years before 2002, when an investigation by the Boston Globe into abuse and cover ups in the Archdiocese of Boston led to an explosion of revelations nationwide. The nation's Catholic bishops, for the first time, then agreed on reforms, including a lifetime ban from ministry for any priest who commits even a single incident of abuse. The report notes that although new national policies significantly improve the internal handling of reported abuse in the Baltimore Archdiocese after 2002, significant flaws remain. Yes, I agree, there's significant flaws. That even though they got it where they should not be serving, there's still some that's in there that are serving, and that is not good at all. In some situations, victims ended up reporting abuse to priests who were abusive themselves. Exactly. Jean Hargadon Werner said she was abused in Baltimore as a teen by A. Joseph Maskell, a priest who served as her Catholic high school's counselor and chaplain. She said she reported her abuse to church officials in the early 90s, when her memories of the trauma finally surfaced about 2 decades after she was repeatedly raped. I expected them to do the right thing in 1992, she told reporters Wednesday. I'm still angry. More than a dozen people accused Maskell of abuse. The priest denied the allegations before his death in 2001, and he was never criminally charged. Well, you know what? Uh, he did not agree that he was abusive, but guess what? He's now where he's going to have to pay for it for good, whether he didn't pay in this lifetime. He's going to have to be paying now. The Associated Press typically doesn't name victims of abuse, but Hargadon Werner, had spoken publicly to draw attention to this issue. And the way you hear me speak, get like Werner, I think that's a German name, and the W is pronounced with a B, if I'm not mistaken. The report also includes numerous instances of church leaders taking steps to protect accused clergy. In '64, for instance, Father Lawrence Brett admitted to sexually abusing a teenager at a Catholic university in Connecticut. He was sent to New Mexico under the guise of hepatitis treatment and then to Sacramento, where another teenage boy reported being abused by Brett. He was later assigned to Baltimore, where he served as a chaplain at a Catholic high school for boys. See, they just kept sending him around, knowing that he was doing this. They just sent him away to another place where he can still do his sickening behavior. For that, the Catholic Church does need to pay for condoning this. After several students accused him of abuse in '73, Brett was allowed to resign, saying he had to care for a sick aunt. School officials didn't report the abuse to authorities, and dozens more victims later came forward. He never faced criminal charges and died in 2010. Lawyers for the state asked the court for permission to release the nearly 500-page document, and a Baltimore Circuit Court judge ruled last month that a redacted version should be made public. The court ordered the removal of the names and titles of 37 people accused of wrongdoing, whose names came out during confidential grand jury proceedings, but will consider releasing a more complete version in the future. I don't think their names need redacted. I don't think that they need to remove the names accused of wrongdoing. I do not think that at all. That is wrong. That is still protecting them. Lawmakers' passage of a bill to end the state statute of limitations Wednesday came after similar proposals failed in recent years. Currently, victims of child sex abuse in Maryland can't sue after they turn 38. The bill would eliminate the age limit and allow for retroactive lawsuits. The Archdiocese of Baltimore has long faced scrutiny over its handling of abuse allegations. In 2002, William Keeler, who served as Baltimore Archbishop for nearly 2 decades, released a list of 57 priests accused of sexual abuse, earning himself a reputation for transparency at a time when the nationwide scope of wrongdoing remained largely unexposed. That changed, however, when a Pennsylvania grand jury accused Keeler of covering up sexual abuse allegations while serving as Bishop of Harrisburg in the '80s. Witt reported from Annapolis and Brunsfield from Silver Spring. So, what do y'all think of that part of it? I've got a lot of friends that was in adult survivors of child abuse, adult survivors of child sexual abuse, all these different things. Some of the friends have been with SNAP. They started out as SNAP and then they went on to, excuse me, then they went on to make their own child sexual abuse sites and all, in which I was a part of one of them. And, but there was something, and a couple of us ended up getting kicked out for saying something that we disagreed with that needed looked into. And then for that, we were ousted out just because we did not conform to whatever. And that was wrong of them either. We were speaking up for abuse, speaking up for talking about it. We were speaking out, so we don't go like this. And if we can't speak out about it, there's a big problem about it. So now I had stumbled across this also. Yeah, and it's horrific. And there's so many other cases that there's no telling how many names. And if y'all can look up at one of the cases, I think it's probably look up the name Richard Windman, Windmann, and he had done some stories, and he's been news articles on him. That's at YouTube as well. Under this kind of thing happening, he's got a horrific story. The Guardian's view on sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. Contrition is not enough. Editorial. I looked up contrition, and that means just basically apologizing. That's not enough. According, and I agree with the Guardian viewing that. An investigation into pedophile priest in France reveals an institution in desperate need of reform. See, it's not only in the United States, it's all across the different Catholic churches. The findings of an inquiry into sexual abuse and pedophilia in the French Catholic Church, published last week, are difficult to read and painful to contemplate. Over the past 70 years, the Independent Commission on Sexual Abuse in the Church found that at least 216,000 children, you see that? 216 children, at least, were subjected to abuse at the hands of Catholic priests and members of the religious orders. Sexual exploitation within the church and associated institutions, the commission stated, had been a massive phenomenon beyond immediate family and friends. The prevalence of sexual violence in the church outstripped that in any other social environment. They always want to silence people that speak out. Yeah, we question that, and like I was told by different churches around here that I needed to go 100% what they said, and I don't need to speak out and try to help others for abuse. And miracles don't happen today, so the things that I'm not giving God the glory for my survival when I'm talking about it. By talking about it, I'm not giving God the glory, is what they claim. And they also claim the fact that God no longer works miracles. So, but there was an oxymoron in itself, the different things that they try to tell me in person around here where I'm at. These conclusions represent, as Pope Francis rightly acknowledged, a moment of shame for the Catholic Church. I would not say it's just a moment of shame. It's like a lifetime of shame. This has been so many decades and decades and decades of this going on, and it's been allowed to go on for so long. And then they get ostracized, and I don't think it's right for when they get a child and they'll tell the child, your parent cannot come in here in the office with you and me while I discipline you. I find fault with that. The parents got every right to be in there to acknowledge and see how the child is treated. That's when they get away with a lot what they're doing. The French report is only the latest in a dismal, heart-rending sequence. Last year, an investigation found that the Catholic Church in England and Wales had failed to adequately deal with sexual abuse perpetrated over decades by clergy and others associated with the church. It had, the report's authors stated, prioritized its own reputation over the welfare of abuse victims. Other investigations have reached similarly damning conclusions in the United States, Ireland, Germany, Chile, Australia, and Poland. There's a big case in Edinburgh where my friend was a judge, and it was against Catholic Church. It's horrific child abuse ring. Oh yeah, yeah. How how did that end up turning out? I hope it turned out well for your friend. See, one of them's case had even went as far as him not supposed to be around children, and he had told and said, "I guarantee you, there's a child in a closet in there that he's hiding out or something." And sure enough, when the police went in there and looked, there was a child, a naked boy in a closet, and there that guy was continuing sexually abusing these boys, even after not supposed to be in working with through the church or whatever. Revelations of the extent to which a culture of cover up has pervaded the higher echelons of the church have disillusioned and alienated millions of Catholics. That's right. That's like we're doing the same things with the that other congregation, other the other nomination that I was talking about not too long ago, where they had all these black boxes of the pedophiles and were refusing to turn it over. She was a judge. She sentenced a lot of them to life. Oh man, bless her heart. It does affect a lot of people's, the rest of their lives. It ain't just like I'm not gonna name names, but I got a friend and she was abused, but uh, her dad ended up her dad ended up in jail for murder and stuff. And did you know that he had raped and murdered the lady, and all he had to serve was 20 years? That's all, just 20 years. Revelations of the extent to which a culture of cover up has pervaded the higher echelons of the church for disillusion, as we said. The callous indifference to victims' testimony and the craven desire to avoid scandal at all costs has been chronicled in movies such as the Oscar winning Spotlight, based on revelations of child sexual abuse in the early 2000s by priests in the Boston area. Other widely seen films, such as Tell No One, we might have to look up some of these names of some of these movies, other widely seen films, such as Tell No One in Poland and By the Grace of God in France, tell the same appalling story. An insular, arrogant culture, deeming itself outside the jurisdiction of secular morality, has routinely ignored the suffering of the abused while offering mercy, secrecy, and escape routes to the abusers. Yes, he should have been. I totally agree with you. Get to know. Being elected Pope in 2013, Francis said that the Church needed to act decisively to root out clerical sexual abuse. Since then, certain necessary steps have been taken. 2 years ago, he hosted an unprecedented Vatican summit on child sexual abuse, at which victims were at last given a proper platform and hearing. Secrecy rules that hampered investigations into abusive priests have been removed. In December, changes to the Code of Canon Law will explicitly criminalize sexual abuse, grooming minors for sex, possessing child pornography, and the covering up of abuse. But even though they got laws against this and they got these statutes and stuff, there's still going to be some hidden. There's still going to be some people that's got power over these kids. The kids are not still going to talk because they're so scared. This is not an easy thing to overcome. Some people get off lightly for the crimes, but my friend goes hard on anyone that hurts kids. God bless her. She was a human rights lawyer as well. Is the King's Council, the highest judge in the land. Wow, that's amazing. Thank her for the good work for me. These are welcome, if horribly belated moves, but Pope Francis should also heed calls this week by the French Commission for greater involvement of lay people in church governance. Women in particular should be given greater influence and power in reforming an institution that has invested in male clergy with a dangerous amount of prestige and authority. In delivering the French Commission's conclusions, its president, Jean-Marc Zouave, pointed to the immense power conferred by the identification of a priest to Christ. What? What is the immense power conferred by the identification of a priest to Christ? Don't never compare yourself and say that you're just as great as Christ's power. Excuse me? No way. You are no way. Do not even put yourself in the same boat. That is so wrong. Thank you. The theology of the male priesthood has allowed flawed human beings to believe themselves to be above the law. And see, they've been getting away for it for so long, they think they're above the law. They think that that they don't have to pay for whatever they do. There's a lot of people that's in our government that's been doing these wrongdoings and everything, and they're getting away with it, because they got these certain rules that they don't have to pay for a crime if they're this thing. But guess what? Now they're trying to change them laws where they do have to pay. Wow, really? That is wonderful. She took Boris Johnson to court and won. Wow, that is great. Then it said the theology of a male priesthood has allowed flawed human beings to believe themselves to be above the law. A corresponding culture of deference has too often made the church a safe space for abusers. If a more healthy church is to emerge after this latest set of revelations, a cultural transformation, including greater openness, diversity, and humility, is required. And so they got it where you can looking for donations, people to support the Guardian, which I'm glad that they brought that out about that, and they are standing up and standing out against this as well. Joanne Cherry, do you do you want me to do that right now? Let's see, let's see. Joanne Cherry, MPKC. Senator. There's UK Parliament. Joanne Cherry. I can accept additional cookies, I guess. Oh, I got it right here. Let me show you the information where people can actually contact or whatever. Yes. Okay. It says right here. Yes, it's her right here. UK Parliament MPs and Lords. Joanna Cherry. The section contains web, social, and other contact information for Joanna Cherry about when you should contact her MPs, lords, and other organizations, individuals review the who to contact with my issue page. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Thank her so much for everything that she's doing to help. We need more people like her. Thank her so much for that. Thank you for sharing that with me as well. There's a lot of people that lives in that area that might not know who to contact. Well, if you're watching this, you'll be able to see and go to that page and view it, and you can pause the thing when you see the information and get in contact with her. You're over in that area in the UK. Like Jackie said, she stands against these people that does these criminal actions towards children. We need people like her here in the United States. I appreciate it. It's actually good to hear some good news, somebody standing up for a change. There was something I want to add to. I had seen on my Facebook earlier, local Walmart here. Y'all be careful and be sure to watch after your kids no matter where you're at. This lady, she was shopping in this local Walmart here, and she was trying to buy an Easter dress for two of her daughters and looking through shoes to go along with the Easter dresses. And when she was looking through the shoes, she moved the shoes a little bit. And she saw a guy that was ducking in between shoes and watching her and her daughters. So the sicko was stalking and watching, probably watching the kids. When she noticed that, he fled. He ran. Um, so she ended up calling her mom on the phone and keeping her on the phone when she was getting ready. She went to the checkout, told the lady, and the lady says, "Okay, be safe." The cashier did. How ridiculous is that, y'all? That lady, I think, should have went and said, "You need to speak to a manager." You know what I'm saying? You need to speak to a manager about this perpetrator. Um, but no, she ended up calling her mom on the phone and then walking outside and making sure that her mom was on the phone with her when she went out to the vehicle. Well, that's a good thing to have somebody on the phone. But what if that perpetrator was more of an aggressive nature and would have went ahead and grabbed them? Not a dang thing the mama could have done that was on the other end of the phone. Not a dang thing could have been done. Like one time when I had this guy bothering me at Walmart, I had, and it was late at night, and he told me that me smiling at him was telling him that I wanted to have sex with him. I said, no, smiling at somebody does not mean, just a friendly nod, a friendly hello does not mean that, yeah, let's go have sex. That is not what it means. Some people are so sick. So I went and got the guy that was security there, and I had him to walk me out to the vehicle and make sure that nobody followed behind me. So things like that. Just note that you have rights, and you could even go up to the counter at Walmart and make a claim, ask to speak to the managers, even call 911 about this happening. They need to look it up and see the recording, the video, and maybe this perp might actually have some charges against him. He might be a wanted felon for all we know. But remember, to keep yourself safe and keep your family safe. And I thank you for people like you that are in the room today. I really appreciate and love you. And let's keep winning and trying to fight this fight. We are not going to give up. Thank you so much. God bless each and every one. Bye bye.